Hi. Today, I guess, is the day that I start talking about kind of where I came from. It's weird to talk about because, well, not because of anything, but basically everyone, since I've moved abroad, no one ever knows where York, Pennsylvania is, so I always explain that I'm from Philly. So that's kind of like stuck to me for a while now. But originally, I'm from York, Pennsylvania. It's a small town in south central PA. And I was born in 1987, 33 years old. And I was born to young parents. My mom was 21 when she had me, and I think my dad would have been 3 years older, 24. And it's a small factory town. There's not really a lot happening there. There are some big factories. Frito-Lay, Harley Davidson is there. It's where the York Peppermint Patty actually originated, if you ever eat those. And my dad worked at York Casket growing up, so they were both kind of, I think, factory workers. I can't remember where my mom worked throughout the years. I remember Stauffer's and I remember Frito, basically, for the most part. And then my dad, I know, has worked at Casket and some packaging company now. So basically, there wasn't a lot happening. And for someone like me who grew up with, two working parents for at least half of my life, um, it just seemed kind of normal that that would be the cycle of how things go, is to live and work there. I don't really remember much before my mom left, to be honest. I know we lived in East Berlin for a while, and after that, I know we lived somewhere downtown. I think maybe on Market Street. I'm not 100% sure. I remember that apartment only because we lived up a banister, like a banister stairwell, a metal one that you had to walk up. I remember the game like Melvin, which is a long neck bird that you put worms in its mouth. I remember a boat in the backyard, and I remember we had a neighbor called Tony who used to babysit me. She had two kids, and they used to torture me with pictures of Chucky because as a kid I had seen it way too young, and it terrified me. And they had like little trading cards. They used to chase me around. I was obsessed with my baby blanket. I remember that. I really was clinging to that a lot. And I also remember I wrote down a bunch of different memories, but I remember, you know, before that, like I was saying, I remember a heart shaped bruise on my head. I hit my head on a pole, and I remember Honey Bunny, which was like my childhood stuffed toy, which was a rabbit, and she got very ragged very fast. Basically, my dad was abusive to my mother. I don't have specific memories of it. Something that's very strange about kind of the memories I have from before living on Beaver Street with my father is that I have a lot of false memories. So I had one memory where I had gotten poison ivy picking flowers. My mom said that never happened. I remember once shutting my fingers in a car door. Like the car door was open and I reached in as a kid and my mom shut the door and then talked to a neighbor and then entered the car and then realized. But I don't think that would have ever happened because the memory in my head, I would have been sitting in the front seat of the car as a 2-year-old or something, so that's obviously not true. I also have a really strange memory from sometime on Beaver Street of my father hitting someone with a car and there being like skin and blood stuck in the windshield. And that obviously, I mean, I don't know. I don't think that happened. Somebody can correct me if it did, but I don't think it did. Basically, the memory happened at night, so why would I have been out so young at night? My dad would have had to have been driving on the opposite side of the road, which would not have made sense. The person had stuck their head out between cars, and my dad would have had to have swapped lanes. And I also remember it happening on the same block that we live on, so there's no way that speed-wise that would even be possible. So these false memories, I think, maybe cover up some of the memories of their fights and the way that he used to treat her. I do vaguely have some memory of taking a Polaroid of a black eye, but I don't think that that maybe happened. So I think a lot of that kind of the very few sporadic memories that I have from that time, I think stem from the good things, but also, I think I don't have a lot of memories from that time because I think it was worse than I realized, than I was aware of at the time. I think parents fight normally, but I think to a certain degree, it's not normal anymore. And so maybe I just put up blocks to kind of, um, yeah, to get it out. I'm gonna obviously a lot of this is gonna bleed into this is physical environment, and a lot of it's gonna bleed into growing up environment. But those years really focus on the years with just my father. Um, the other things that I have kind of that I've written down about memories, for some reason I remember my telephone number from Beaver Street, which is 843-3813. Don't know why. Can't remember many other numbers now that we have cell phones, but that number when I was 6 years old was, important. I remember the York College was nearby when I lived on Beaver Street, and that was really cool. I used to walk there a lot, and it's just a huge open grass field because there weren't a lot of sports happening at all times. And I remember hanging out in the creek. I remember looking for crayfish and swinging on the branches of a willow tree across the creek. So those are really fun things for me. I remember that there was like a nearby strip mall, but it was just like a few shops, and one of them was like some new age shop that I bought my first mood ring at. Then there was a place that had it was like a band or a music store that had CDs and records, and I went there kind of for that, but mostly because they had stickers for sale, and I would buy these stickers that probably were not appropriate for people my age, but I used to save up whatever money I could to go there all the time to buy them. I remember at Beaver Street, because this, like I said, I don't have very many memories before. I know that like when my mom was still present at Beaver Street, I had a pet turtle that floated on a sponge in my kid pool. I remember Baby, my dog, um, and she ran away so many times that she got taken away eventually. I remember um, we were next door to a college house, and I remember making crafts with my mom one Halloween, which I guess the story might be appropriate. We made these balloons. They were like came with a craft kit that came every month. It was something I really looked forward to, and we made these like orange and purple balloons or something, and they were ghosts and stuff. We hung them on the porch, and the neighbor kids, I guess, thought it would be funny to steal them. And I remember my father going over there and with a stick, like made of wood. It was from the casket factory. It was like I can't really get it that thick. It was made of like oak or something. It was a really heavy wood. And my dad went over there and like beat their asses just to get these balloons back. And when he came back, he had like blood on his sock and there were blood on the balloons, so it kind of ruined that whole purpose. And I remember him vaguely telling the story of, one of the kids hid under a car and he like hit him in the head when he stuck his head out. But I don't know if that's real memory. The weird part about that is I remember having um, my own college kid stick. My dad made me like a shorter version, I guess, to encourage this behavior. Um, yeah, I do have lots of bad memories at Beaver Street. Not in particularly because my mom wasn't around, but that will bleed into the next video. I think I need to hold back. Other physical things that I remember that the house at Beaver Street had a deck, and my aunt Chris lived with us for a while, and she used to shake the deck, and that would scare me. And there was a shit ton of like some kind of bird would shit right outside the door on the second floor that led out to the deck, so we never used it. You had to go from the ground floor and walk up. Being next to the college house, I remember going out on the roof at one point as a kid because there was a party on the roof, and the kids they were all drinking like jungle juice and whatever, and they managed to give me like regular juice in a red Solo cup just to be nice, and they taught me the game Bullshit, the card game. I don't know where my parents were at that time. I remember that I had a swing in the backyard that my dad built. it eventually broke. I remember a kid sitting on it and it ended up breaking, and I was kind of devastated about that. Three more memories, and then I think I'll stop kind of doing this flow of thought, because when I switch into environment, you'll kind of see why I'm not doing that. Environment kind of brings up a lot of the other murky areas that I need to trudge through. And for this, I'm just kind of giving you a layout of the memories that I have, kind of, and to kind of get an idea of what I'm trying to set the scene for, basically. I remember the last three memories I'll kind of bring up before I'll stop this video. Four. I'll do four. One was I remember the neighbor's German Shepherd, came over and it scared me, and I fell off of the back porch into the sandbox. And I remember that the sandbox was an old planter, metal, cement. I didn't hurt myself, but I remember that there was cat shit all inside the sand, so I could never use it. It was kind of frustrating. Second memory, my brother, who's not really in my life, but I remember one visit. When I was first learning how to ride my bike, I rode it downhill, and I saw a car coming out on the opposite side, and I was nowhere near, but I overcompensated to stay away from it, and I hit the back of a parked car and slammed forward and smashed my nuts and my face on the back of my uncle's truck. So I stopped learning how to ride my bike for a very long time. But my brother, it was one of the actual memories I have with him, is that he taught me how to ride actually in the backyard, and I wouldn't have never ridden a bike because I was so scared if it had not been for him kind of pushing me to do that. The last two things are very badly managed money. I remember my father just was terrible at money. We always had money for fun stuff, but when it came down to utilities, they were always put off to the very last minute. I remember power being cut off and then having to get it back on. I know that we cut open the bottom of the couch. I've written about this in poetry, and I've done photo projects on it. I remember ripping open the bottom of the couch to get money out of the bottom for change for school lunch. And eventually I have a pet frog that commits suicide, and she jumps out of the aquarium, and I found her shriveled up like in the couch. Like there was like a liner that we had cut, so we never took it out. And I was looking under there for more change one day with a flashlight, and I saw the shriveled up corpse of the frog. The other good thing to come out of this time was my love for Turkey Hill cherry iced tea. It's something that is a very fond childhood memory. I don't know if it'll taste the same. Probably not. I don't really like a lot of that corn syrup shit anymore. But at the time, that was like the greatest thing. And it's one of those sensory memories that when you taste something similar, it brings you back to that. I actually had a very weird. This is completely unrelated to this, but a weird sensory situation last night where I had headphones on and I was listening to Sigaros before bed, because every now and then I just listen to one of those albums from before 2005, and it brought me back to like laying in my dorm room and hearing it for the first time in like 2005, and it was just so weird to feel like you're in the exact same place that you are now that you were 15 years ago. And I think that was kind of a nice feeling, to feel like you're on the brink of something new. It brought tears to my eyes, which I normally don't cry freely anymore. I mean, I have to watch a movie or something. But I think it's because of this project. So it's kind of like this whole discovery thing, kind of the excitement of pushing yourself to new boundaries and things like that. This video is quite long. I'm going to play it back. I'm going to see if it's too scattered, and if it is, maybe I will clean it up and try again tomorrow. I want to try to keep it, like I said, I'm not editing, so the most that I will do is kind of take the outline that I had and maybe break it down a little bit cleaner so that there's less in between. But I think that that's a good starting point, because I think that, like I said, tomorrow I'll go into more of the next video I will go into more of the murkier stuff. and I think that it kind of bleeds together with physical environment because um, we were lower class, or lower to middle class, and that obvious things like the fact that my parents were factory workers. When my mom left, my dad was kind of raising me alone for many years, and he worked third shift, so he would sleep during the day. So I had lots of time to do whatever I wanted, and that got into some weird situations. It's not normal. I know it's not now, but back then, you figure out everything on your own, and yeah, you, yeah, it'll make sense. So anyway, it's a very scattered video, but this is my first time doing something like this, so forgive me. Thanks for sticking around for 16 minutes this time. I promise I'm going to try to keep it short, or at least cleanly cut it so that I can break them up. Um, but I'm going to play this back and maybe I won't use this at all. So in that case, thanks for watching, and now you know a little bit more about you know where I came from and some of the situations that have led to the other situations that have led to where I am now. I hope any of that makes